Hello and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. Bitcoin really hardly moving at all. We have on the Bitcoin chart really a lot of tension currently building up. Since Bitcoin hit the 45k level, it really has hardly moved at all. Of course, there was a bit of a rejection at 45k, and since then it really only moved sideways, maybe with a little bit of a price increase. But overall, we'll take a look at what Bitcoin is doing now. I mean, as you probably know if you've been following me, I've got my two target areas here. Primary expectation, I would still give it let's give it a 60% probability, a sell-off straight away into this range here. That probability has reduced a little bit because we are obviously very, very high in that triangle, because as soon as we break out of that triangle above 45.8k, then we are going to move, in my opinion, into this target area here. This is then a different wave count, would be a wave B. I would give that maybe a 25%, 25 to 30%, leaves us 10 to 15%. What would that probability be? I think that would be a move upon, above all-time highs. Everything has a probability. I mean, there's even probably a probability for Bitcoin to go to zero, but it's just very, very low. So everything is always possible in financial markets, especially in the crypto market that is very volatile, but we need to understand the probabilities. So 60% down straight away, that would be a triangle count here, where Bitcoin would now start to head further down, okay, and break out of the triangle to the downside, move to 34.5k, break down this one, 33k, break that and head into the target area, get a bit of a rejection, move a little bit up, and then head further down into finalization of the correction before it then can finally move to new all-time highs, and we might be able to see a 6-digit Bitcoin. That would be the best for the chart as well. That would allow the most sustainable upside, in my opinion. The alternative scenario, go up first and then come down. What did I say? 25% probability, or 20? I can't even remember. 20 to 25%. That would assume we come up here and then come down. So it would pretty much be similar to the first scenario, just that we are in both scenarios going to land here. This second scenario would just take longer to work out. And of course, a move to new all-time highs will also have a probability, but I give it only around 10%. So it is really, really low. And that would assume that the low is already in. I did say before at some point in other videos that the probability that the low is already in for Bitcoin is really, really low. It probably really is the, it probably really is the rarest Elliott Wave pattern, that running flat that you would then see on the chart, which would assume that wave C, so we made a wave A down here back in June, came up in a wave B, an overshooting wave B, and that wave C then to the downside is just a wave C, which will end above wave A. This is possible, but it is really, really rare. And it is probably, as I said, the rarest pattern of all Elliott Wave corrective patterns. And it is just highly unlikely, especially in the current higher degree wave 2 in which Bitcoin is. I would be really, really surprised, okay? But of course, I can't say it will never happen, because everything's always possible in financial markets. And that is just something that we have to have on the radar. Okay, What else? And again, I sometimes get comments that from people that say, it will never be possible that Bitcoin moves below 30k again. And in my opinion, these comments they just show that people don't understand that everything is always possible in financial markets, right? Even if it has a low probability, it can happen. We need to be open to that idea. Otherwise, you're restricting yourself too much, and you can make the wrong decisions. And you can see here Bitcoin, how the tension is starting to get unbearable, really. So Bitcoin moving in these two bearish patterns. We've got that ascending wedge and the broadening ascending wedge within it. It currently looks like that Bitcoin moved out of this ascending wedge. It still seems to be in this broadening ascending wedge, but it broke out of the ascending wedge, which is a first bearish move. And it looks a little bit like, for me, that Bitcoin has broken out down, is currently retesting. Whoops, no, I didn't want to do that. Is currently retesting that former support from below. And if that retest is successful, Bitcoin could then head further down. And that would hopefully and I'm looking forward to that because I think it's the best for the chart. That would then be a first confirmation for my primary scenario that we are heading further down. I mean, so far the price, to be honest, has done exactly what we assumed. From down here, showed you that E wave up, and it has done exactly that. It has come exactly to that 45k level, 100% fulfilled so far. But the next step that we need to complete that ABCDE triangle would be that breakout to the downside, and Bitcoin needs to start with that. Otherwise, the bulls will probably win, which is fine as well. It would just take much longer than to finish that that whole correction off. We can already see on the 4-hour chart it's turning down, to be honest. We've had a bearish crossover here on the 4-hour chart. That is rather bearish, negative momentum building. I told you earlier today, I think it was on that 4-hour chart, I told you earlier today that if we see on the 4-hour chart this bearish momentum increase, that this could really push us down outside of that ascending wedge here. And the ascending wedge itself is already a bearish pattern, so this is already pushing the price slightly out of it. And there is no other way to draw this ascending triangle in terms of making sure that these candles are in there still. I don't think it is. I think they really have moved out, but it's currently holding. It's currently holding still above that 44.5k support. That was previous resistance, is now support. But if it's losing that 44.5k, I think it's gonna head down fairly quickly, and that would be what I'm actually looking for primarily. So it's really exciting. I mean, I'm open to both ideas, don't get me wrong. Heading further down would be preferred option because it would just finish that whole correction faster. I mean, we all want all-time highs, don't we? So it would just be better for the chart. A move first up with a fake out, an extended fake out to the upside into that region between 55 and 65k. Yeah, I think it would burn a lot of people. A lot of people would get burned. But even that, I'm open to the idea, and I would probably then take profits in that region. But yeah, if we head further down, I will accumulate more, of course, starting again below 40k with my buy orders. But yeah, this is where we currently are, and I'm very excited to really see what's going on here. Really interesting to see what Bitcoin is going to do. As I said before, we saw the daily here flattening out already. That is interesting. It's still too early to say that on the daily it's going to head down. The MACD is still moving up and moving sideways at the moment, but we must acknowledge that there was quite a bit of a rejection up here. So Bitcoin really is struggling to push through that resistance here, especially as we had difficulties before with all those wicks, and we see 1, 2, 3 wicks here on the daily pushing up further. What else can we see? Can we see anything else? We can see we see a bearish divergence on the chart as well on the 4-hour, where you make higher highs on the price. You can see that ascending trend line, higher highs from that high to that high, and we saw lower highs, not significantly, but we saw lower highs on the RSI, and also that is fairly bearish. Would not overestimate this. I mean, we need to understand we are here. We have a weekend. We have lower, generally on the weekend, you typically have lower volume anyway. So the markets are a little bit less predictable as they normally would be. But yeah, it's interesting. Those patterns indicate a potential exhaustion of the price. I mean, generally what we need to understand is Bitcoin is not yet overbought on the daily. So technically there is certainly further upside potential, and certainly what we saw as well is here on that 4-day chart, a bullish crossover on the MACD already end of February. We talked about it. The 4-day chart is very meaningful, and on the weekly chart as well, we see a decrease in negative momentum. And if that continues, maybe already next week, we might see here a bullish crossover on the weekly. That would be bullish. Again, last time that happened, we moved to new all-time highs. So far, so good. Looking really interesting so far. The MACD on the monthly, though, is still heading further down and is not yet making a sign of a reversal. That still shows significant downside potential, and it is my view that because that MACD line is still so high, we will really struggle to make new all-time highs. That is just one confirmation that I believe is really showing us that we will struggle to make new all-time highs, because the MACD line again can only move that, so high, and it was very high, and it is only now coming down, and we will be limited sort of in terms of how high the price can go. Therefore, I mean, we need to see normally that price below 30k or below 29k also to bring those indicators further down. Okay, that's my view here on Bitcoin at the moment. Hopefully you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.